Do you want to start making money and getting sales as soon as you post a gig on Fiverr? Yeah, so do I. But that doesn't just happen. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tweak and modify your gigs to get impressions and get views so that you're getting sales on a consistent basis on Fiverr, just like I did when I was first starting out with my first main gig. But first things first, you need to offer a gig. If you don't already offer a gig that people want to buy on Fiverr, you need to start. Nobody's gonna buy your gig, no matter how many millions of impressions you have, if you're not offering value or a service that people actually want and need for them or their business. So if you don't already have a gig or an idea for a gig that you think people might actually want or need, click the links in the video or in the description. I've already made a couple of videos talking about, on a really high level, how to create and find gigs that people actually want and how to post them on Fiverr. So your first step, if you haven't already figured that out, is to check those videos out or other videos on YouTube and figure out what you're gonna start offering. Now, back to the main point of this video, how to tweak your gigs to make sure they're consistently getting impressions and views on Fiverr. If you're wondering what I mean by this, an impression is a measure that Fiverr uses to track how many times your gig is appearing in Fiverr search for people on a very basic and high level. Moral of the story is impressions are extremely important. Ranking on page 1 of Fiverr will dramatically increase and change your earning potential on the site. In a past video, I already covered the basics on how to create a gig that will sell on Fiverr. I covered the basics of creating a title with a lot of keywords, a body and description that's really gonna work, and using images to sell your gig. If you haven't already watched it, you should probably check it out before going any further. You really need to put a huge amount of focus on making sure you're using and putting the right keywords in your gig, in the title, in the description, in your packages. You need to figure out a way to pack your gig with as many search terms as possible that your potential buyers are going to be searching for. This is going to help you rank highly. But what if you've already done that? What if you've already put a lot of thought into keywords and you're not getting the amount of sales or interest that you expected? Or your gig's been up for a little while and it's still not ranking highly on Fiverr search. What do you do now? Let me tell you. Creating a gig that's extremely popular on Fiverr, that's ranking highly and showing up in page 1 of search, takes one thing. And you're gonna think this is silly, but it's trial and error. My #1 gig has over 140,000 impressions, over 9,000 views, and 112 orders and counting in the last 6 months alone. But in that same period of time of 6 months, I tweaked that gig 5 times. The reason I'm telling you this is because although my #1 gig is extremely successful and generates me a lot of revenue, tweaking this gig has been extremely important for it to be as successful as it's been. As I said before, the #1 goal is to always rank on page 1 of Fiverr. It's going to dramatically increase your earnings. It'll essentially change your life selling on Fiverr. So if your gig's not working, you need to be constantly finding ways to tweak your keywords in the title, revamping your description, messing around with your packages and pricing, really trying whatever you can to get your gig to rank highly and continue to push it up the Fiverr page ranks. It's hugely important. And once you've gone through this process of trial and error and you finally find something that's working and your gig is ranking highly, keep it that way. Because being on page 1 or as close to page 1 as possible for as long as possible is going to impact your bottom line dramatically. In that last 6 months I was talking about where I tweaked my gig 5 times, of those 5 times, only once did I really do a major overhaul. In that major overhaul, I completely changed my gig title, my gig description. I did some research and reworked what keywords I was going to be using, and I revamped, the images and gig pictures I was using for my gigs. So before I did this complete overhaul of my gig, I needed to do some research. And the research that I did, and I recommend you do something along the same lines, is to search for keywords or keyword terms that you're trying to rank against in Fiverr search, and research the top players in the space, the top sellers that are doing what you want to do, the people ranking on page 1. Analyze and comb through all of their gigs with a fine-tooth comb and try to figure out what keywords are they using on a consistent basis, what key phrases are they using, how are they titling their gigs. Figure this out and combine all the data you've collected from the top 10, 20, 30 top ranking sellers on Fiverr and use that to really build it into your gig, to make your gig a hybrid of all the best practices that you've researched so that you have a chance of ranking with the best of the best. I did this for my top gig, and now for the 3 focus keywords and key phrases that I try to rank against, I'm always ranking on page 1, either in the first or second line of page 1 in Fiverr. You should really set the same level or the same goals for your own gigs, because I can tell you in my experience, it totally changed the game for me, and I think you can do the same. But you need to put in the work to figure out what works. And you're gonna do that by researching the people who've already figured it out. Use that information to target your gig to the niche you're trying to target. It will help, it will take some time, but it's going to pay off. So whether you decide to do this once a week, once a month, once every other month, go through the exercise of checking out how well your gig is doing. Monitor your gig analytics page, and if things aren't going the way you think they should be, start doing some research on the competition and start tweaking things. Tweak your gig title, try different keywords or key phrases, rewrite or have someone else rewrite your gig description. You need to try to figure out what's going to work. Every time you make a change, monitor it through Fiverr Analytics for the next 2 days to a week. Try to see if the impressions are increasing or if the views are increasing or if you're getting more inquiries from buyers. If you are, great. Keep things that way and see how long you can ride that wave. But if you aren't getting results, go back to the drawing board, make some more tweaks, and then monitor it again. Usually I'll monitor changes for 1 to 2 weeks. If I don't see any results, I immediately revert back and change something. That's the process I follow. You can figure out what works best for you, but the moral of this is you need to actively be doing this until you find some sort of a formula that's going to work for your gig and your niche. And that's all I have for you today. Not a super complicated or technical exercise, but a necessary one to make sure that you are doing as best you can to make sure you're proactively pushing your gig to the front of the pack on Fiverr. The reality is there's going to be thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of people publishing gigs on Fiverr over the next little while. If you're one of the group who just publishes a gig and waits to see what happens, your gig's not going to be successful, you're not going to make any money, and you're not really going to realize any changes over time with your gig. So do the things that I'm telling you to do in this video. Be proactive, do your research, and tweak your gig, and maybe you'll find some great success. So thanks again for watching. If this was a helpful video, please subscribe. It motivates me to continue putting up more videos by letting me know that I'm actually helping someone. So thanks and have a good day.